Hi, I'm Chelsea, and today I'm going to show you how to use dodging and burning to bring out more beautiful light and coloring in your portraits. I'm also going to show you just some general editing in Lightroom. So we'll be using this picture, and I'll provide a file in the description so you can follow along. And this is the before, and this is the after. You can see I just warmed up the photo a bit and used dodging and burning to make the light on her face more flattering and a bit more dramatic. Let's go into develop here, and the first thing I'm going to do is just adjust the crop a little bit. There we go. And next I'm going to lower the exposure so that it's just a little bit too dark. Your skin is just a bit underexposed because I'm going to go in and I'm going to use the adjustment brush here and brush in some highlights and shadows and do some dodging and burning. So let's get started with that. So the first adjustment brush I'm going to use is going to be to just clean up her skin just a little bit. I'm going to soften skin and press O to see your mask. And she has nice skin, so I don't want to go too far. And in fact, one of my pet peeves is when people soften the skin too much because it looks really artificial and cheesy. I always end up going a little bit too far anyway, so at the end of all of my editing, I like to go back and dial everything to the more natural side by about 20%. Okay, so I will press O to get rid of that mask. And to me, it looks a bit too soft, so I'll take the clarity slider here and go to about -43 and the sharpness down to about 8. I like to do the before and after just to see, make sure it doesn't look too unnatural. I used the high ISO in this shot too because it was pretty dark outside, so there's a lot of grain and that can make the skin look like it has a lot of texture to it. So now that that's smoothed a bit, I'll use the heal tool and just get rid of a few of these blemishes. I'll press the adjustment brush again because now we're going to start the dodging and burning. So go here to this little effects menu and go to dodge. And we're going to dodge her entire face first. Press O so that you can see your mask. I'll get a bit of her neck. And sometimes the mask, I find that it doesn't really show you completely where you're working. I mean, sometimes it can be patchy and you can't really tell from the red mask. So I like to turn the exposure all the way up and make sure that I've pretty evenly selected everything. And then I turn it down to what I want. I'll create a new layer for the adjustment brush, or new adjustment brush. And select burn. And I'll press O so that I can see my mask again. And you can see I have my flow down so that it's not too harsh. When dodging and burning, something that's really important is to make sure that the transitions aren't really hard, because unless there's very hard light, you're not going to have hard transitions between the shadows and light anyway. In this environment, I'm going for a soft light look, so I want it to be very gradual transitions between the shadows and the highlights. The ladies will know this, but when you're dodging and burning, you want to follow the same guidelines as if you were contouring when you're using makeup. So under the cheekbones, they call it burning in the hairline even when you're doing makeup, and along the sides of your subject's nose, we'll narrow the nose a bit. And at the jawline, a lot of people don't have a lot of definition between their jawline and their neck. So you can use some shadows to bring that out. It can also create a slimming effect if you use it in certain areas, like under the jawline. And I'm using it here just because I want the light to be a bit more dramatic. So I'm kind of darkening up the natural shadows in the picture. You can be a little bit messy because I'm going to go back and use the erase tool. We'll use the erase tool and we'll lower the flow and we'll make this bigger. We don't want it in her hair. and you can just see I'm softening all the edges, that there aren't any harsh transitions between the shadows and the highlights. And then some places you want to put the flow completely up because you might not want it in your subject's hair. Or in their eyes. Okay, let's get rid of the mask. And sometimes it helps to zoom out a bit so you can see the full picture. And then you can see how much exposure is too much. So I'm just showing you that you don't want too much. It looks scary. I'm going very subtle, especially because I'm working on a child's portrait. It'd be really creepy if I overdid it. Don't like that pageant look. Okay, I'll create a new mask and then go to dodge again. I just kind of generally dodged her face before and lightened it, and now we're going to go in and create highlights. And once again, those of you that wear makeup will know where to put the highlights. So here, above the brows a bit, right down the bridge of the nose, and then you want a triangle under the eyes and the cheekbones. And then sometimes you want to define the jawline as well. That can be really nice for men. If you're doing subtle edits and you want to bring out the definition of their jawline, that can be a nice masculine edit. Bring out some of the highlights here. Some of these transitions are a bit rough, so I'm going to turn down the flow and just blend it a bit. And then I'll take my erase tool, and flow is up pretty high, so I'm going to lower that because I want to just blend again. People have asked me before if I have tips for fast edits, and I don't, because when you're doing especially edits like these, you really just have to put a lot of time in, and it takes quite a bit of patience to make sure that it looks natural. I'm sure you've all seen over-edited portraits. They just look really artificial, and you think about the edit when you look at the picture more than the picture itself, and that's when you know the person has gone too far. Just press Y here and see a before and after, and that's very subtle. I'll go to my adjustment layer again, and this time I'm going to use the Iris Enhance. I know it's Iris Enhance, but sometimes I do the whole eye. You can always erase if it doesn't look good. I'll bring up the sharpness just a little bit, and then I'll create a new layer, and I'm going to go in and edit the eyes just a bit more. And that is too much. You can see I zoom out and it looks a bit artificial. So I'll reselect where I just was and just lower the exposure a bit. I'm going to select New and then go to Burn again. And this time I'll be using the Burn tool to bring out her eyelashes. And sometimes you can even use it just to create a dark ring around the outside of the iris, which makes the eyes stand out just a little bit more. You can see how the eyes are just glowing a bit, the color's a little bit brighter, they look more lit up. And I'm just zooming back to make sure that they don't look scary like cat eyes. And I think that the white looks just a tiny bit too bright, so what I do is, let me press Y again, get rid of that, go back into this layer, and then just erase some of the mask. It shows you there. You can reduce the flow. That's better. And the next thing I'm going to do is use dodging and burning on her hair. That's too much. And much like what I did on her face, I'm doing an all-over mask on her hair. And then I'll go back and I'll just kind of add some highlights into the naturally highlighted areas of her hair. And that's kind of what you're doing on the skin too. You're just looking for the natural highlights, and that will ensure that your edit is natural looking. Okay, so let me take this mask off, and that's not too much. So I'll press New and do another dodge layer. Oh, actually, you know what? I want to go back to that one because not only do I want to brighten it up a bit, I'd like to change the color. So you can see if you slide your temperature slider, you can warm up the hair. And I'm just doing it a little bit. And her hair is naturally has red in it, so I'm just pushing it towards the magenta side. And now I'll select New, and we'll go in and press O again. I use my left bracket tool to make my brush smaller, but you could use the little scroll wheel on your mouse, I think. I like my Wacom tablet here. A lot of people ask about this. This is the Wacom Intuos. I like it. Tony doesn't. Good, right for some people, not for others. Okay, so let me follow the natural highlights in her hair. Make my brush flow a little bit heavier. It's feathered. You can see these highlights here. Bring out her curls. Let's turn off the mask and turn up the exposure a little bit. One thing I'm noticing is that these highlights up here were already pretty bright, so they're getting a bit of an unnatural look. So we'll go into my erase tool and just blend those back into the original exposure. I like to keep checking my before and after to make sure I haven't gone too far with the edits, and these are really subtle. Because they're so subtle, I'm actually going to go into my masks and select my dodging and burning and just bring it out a bit more. So let me see, you can, so that's my dodging layer. Where's my burning? I'm just going to burn it in just a little bit more. I'm trying something. I'm just kind of experimenting. I've never done this before, but I want to see what it's like if I make the shadows a little bit cooler and the highlights a little bit warmer. Could look bad, but it never hurts to try. So I would have to do this all over layer. Again, I'm making a new layer and I'm dodging. And I'm going to put some sunbursts in the corner here. So let me put my flow all the way up. You can see where there's natural light. There's some on the ground here. I want to just come in and just touch her head. And from this corner, I'll put one and just have it come in and just touch her hair a little. Turn off my mask and turn up my exposure and the warmth. Just have it touch the sides of her hair a little bit. And I know that this looks a little wild, but I like to go in after and do the erasing. Just blending it in. I'm going to go into my whites here and make sure I have just a little bit of white in the photo and my blacks. I'm going to raise the shadows just a tad. to the sharpening, the masking. If you press Alt, it will show you which parts it's going to sharpen. And I just want to bring out her eyes a little bit. And I don't want to overdo it. So there you have it. You can see the before and the after picture. The edits are fairly subtle and natural, but it just looks like the light was warmer. Maybe it was the golden hour, and it brings out some of the highlights and shadows on her face. It's a bit more dramatic. If you liked this video and you learned something, please subscribe to our channel. That would help us out. And also, if you'd like to learn more, we have a book, a Lightroom book that Tony wrote. I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good. And it's only $9 for the ebook. It comes with 12 hours of videos, kind of like these. Thank you very much.